Hey, this is Jonathan, and I'm joined today by Bonnie.
Hi.
And we're going to unbox and set up Forbidden Island, a cooperative game from Game Right Games made by.
Matt Leacock.
Excellent. Let's crack it open here. There you go. First thing we're going to take out is this flood marker and an indicator. And we're going to set that to novice. And this will set your difficulty of your game from novice all the way up to legendary. I'm going to set that to the side. We take out our treasure tokens, and this is what you're going to hunt for as a team in the game. If you get all four and manage to get off the island, you win. Take out our player tokens. Sure I get them all there. Then we take out our cards, and there's a few different decks here. So you have these orange back decks, which are our action or our draw cards.
Treasure cards.
No, then behind it you just shuffle those. And then we have the dreaded blue cards, which are our flood cards. And then we also have these colorful roll cards, which also show an order of play on the back of them, which is extremely handy. So I'm going to quickly shuffle this deck. There we go. If you would put that over there. And then take the roll cards and put them off to the side. And last but not least, we have our play tiles. I'm going to hand these to Bonnie to shuffle up. I think, that last one's really in there. Need small fingers. There we go. All right. Now there is a special method to setting this up. Basically, we're going to make a 4x4 square with two tiles at each extra on each side. I'm just going to tighten this up a little bit. Perfect. The next thing you do is you want to draw a roll card. So you can either select these randomly, select them as you will. I'm just going to go ahead and select one randomly. I've chosen the diver. Each of them have a special ability as listed on the card. This one says I can move through one or more adjacent flooded and or missing tiles for one action. He is clearly the black player, and we want to look for in the corner of a tile, like this one's for the red player, this one's for the blue player. There should be one for the black player.
And the starting tiles are always the gate tiles in this game.
And Bonnie has drawn the engineer, so she will be red. And this game is really best if you can get as many people playing this as possible. With the fewer amount of people, it's damn near impossible.
It is. It's designed for 2 to 4 players. So.
Right, and now we each get a few cards from the treasure deck.
Actually, first thing we do is the island starts to sink before we turn out. Yeah. So what? Each of these tiles has a full color side and a lighter side. The lighter side indicates that the tile is flooded. And during gameplay, if this card comes up again, the tile actually sinks. And most of the rolls, the players can no longer go through there. And the idea of the game, like Jonathan said, is we want to collect all 4 of the treasure tokens and then come back to Fool's Landing, which is the most important tile in the entire game, and escape with a helicopter card. As the game progresses, more and more tiles start to flood and then disappear, making it harder. There can come a point where you can't even win the game anymore, which I hate when that happens. Makes me sad.
All right, so what do we do to start the initial sinking?
So the first thing we do is we draw the top 6 cards, and we start to flood each of these. So to start off with Lost Lagoon floods. Iron Gate, which is where Jonathan starts floods.
Delightful.
The Cave of Shadows.
The Cave of Shadows.
Temple of the Sun.
Temple of the Sun.
Half the fun is trying to find these.
There we are.
Temple of the Moon.
Temple of the Moon I just saw. There we are.
And the Cave of Embers.
The Cave of Embers. There we
Now,
are.
one thing to note on these cards is there are 2 of the treasure symbols on the cards, and that's where you need to get to collect that particular treasure. So there's 2 for each. If the tile floods, you can still collect it, but if it sinks, that tile is now gone. So one of the things as you're playing, you need to always protect Fool's Landing, and you always need to make sure you have at least one of the other treasure tiles still available so you can get to it and collect that treasure. Yeah. Once you have that treasure, it's up to you. You can decide to, let it go in hopes that you don't need that spot. But starting out, we're actually in a little bit of trouble because both of the fire, and both of the purple ones are flooded. So we're not starting in the best position, you guys. I'm not convinced we would win this game. But we'll see. I have faith.
I'm starting in a flooded space.
You are. Your feet are wet.
Thank God I'm a diver.
Right, and with rubber boots, because you're going to have wet socks. So then the adventures appear, which is what we just did, and then we hand out, as Jonathan said, the treasure deck cards. So what you do is you deal 2 to each player. And because this is a cooperative game, you tend to play them with your cards face up.
And good news, I have initially drawn a Water's Rise.
Excellent. That's the best.
Mm-hmm. So when in a Water's Rise, the first thing you do is we slide the slider up 1, and this is going to tell us how many cards we're drawing per turn to flood this area. So we move the water level up 1, we shuffle the flood discard pile, which
actually,
is...
just to interrupt, because that happened in initial playout, you actually don't do that.
Oh.
Yeah. This is the only case, because this came in initial, you just get a different treasure card.
Oh, thank God.
After this, when the Water's Rise cards come up,
Right.
we're in a lot of trouble.
As we can see, I have 2 different cards here. I have an actual treasure card, of which we need
4
to collect the treasure. And I have an action card, and this one says I can play it at any time, and it doesn't count as an action. And I can discard this treasure, discard the treasure pile after use, but this allows me to shore up a tile, which means I can use this and basically flip one of these from flooded back to okay again.
Exactly.
If it shows up again when it floods again, it'll go back to flooded, but for now, it would be okay.
Exactly. Yeah. And so we set the water, the water level. As Jonathan said, we're starting on novice just because this is a demo, but you can set all the way up to legendary if you're feeling really adventurous. And then you just start play. It's very straightforward. On the back of your roll card is the order of play. Every player on their turn can take up to 3 actions. And your available actions are you can move. And in this game, you can only move up, down, left, and right. Orthogonal movement only. There's no diagonal. Unless you have, some of the rolls allow you to break these rules, of course. Every roll has a special ability. But on average, most characters can only move left or right, up and down. So that's one potential action. You can shore up, which is what Jonathan said earlier. When you flip from flooded back to normal, that's called shoring up. You can give a treasure card. So to do that, we would both have to be on the same square or on the same tile. And then whoever's turn it is can give a card away. Remembering that your hand size is 5. So if you end up with more than 5 cards, you have to discard. If you have special cards, like Jonathan does, the action card, you can choose to use that instead of discarding it. So, and then our other option is to capture a treasure. So if you have 4 of the same treasure card and you're on the tile with that treasure token, for example, with the cup, if I had 4 of these and I was here, I could pick up this one treasure, and that gives us 1 of 4. So that's the first step, is to take your up to 3 actions. You don't have to take all 3. And then once you're all done that, you draw 2 treasure cards, discarding your hand back down to 5 if need be. And then the worst part, you draw the flood cards. As Jonathan indicated on the Water's Rise, or the water level marker, that's how many cards you draw each time. So at this point, we would draw 2. Just as an example, Crimson Forest and Silver Gate. And again, those would flip over. If they'd already been flooded, they would then disappear. One of the challenges to the game is the Water's Rise card, which we talked about a few minutes ago. If that comes up, you immediately stop your turn and you deal with the Water's Rise card. So the first thing you do is you move the water level marker up, and then you take all the discarded flooded cards and you put them, you shuffle them, and you put them back on top of the deck. And that means that they're more likely to come up right away. Then you discard this one, you go on to the next turn. Again, because the Water's Rise card comes as a treasure, you would then do your 2 flood cards in our case, because we're at a water level of 2. And if this was the case, we pulled Cave of Embers, which is now out of the game. So you remove the tile and the card and put them off to the side. And then the second one is Cave of Shadows, which is this one. And at that point, if this had been our game, we just lost, because we can no longer capture the fire marker, let alone get back to Fool's Landing. So that was probably the fastest game in history. I can't believe we actually lost it that quickly. One of the other things to note, one of the other special cards is called the Helicopter Lift. There's 2 things to note with this card. One is, if we had been playing the game and we actually captured all 4 treasures and got everybody back to Fool's Landing, you must have a Helicopter's Lift card to escape the island. If ever you have all 4 treasures and you get back to here and you have no helicopter lift, you've lost the game. Being a cooperative game, this is a everybody wins or everybody loses game. If one person drowns or something like that happens, we lose. If we can't get all 4 tiles or all 4 treasures, we lose. Fool's Landing sinks, we lose. There's a lot of lose options in this game, not a lot of win. I think there's 3 helicopter lift cards in the game, and they can be used just like the sandbags at any point as you play. And what it allows you to do is move 1 or more pawns on the same tile to any other tile. So as the game is progressing, if we were, say, for example, we were on Gold Gate and we needed to get up to Howling Gardens, one of us could play the helicopter lift, and then we move right there, and then the card is discarded. So that, in a nutshell, is Forbidden Island.